If you know anything about like the gaming industry at all, you probably know what E3 was, and if you pay attention to the news and don't wait a week later to get your news sources like you're doing now, you'd know E3 2023 has been canceled. One of the biggest gaming expos ever, just canceled finally. I mean, let's be honest. Were we really surprised this was going to happen? Like back when COVID started and they pulled out because nobody could go to the convention, and then the next year they couldn't do it also. Gaming companies saw this, they decided, you know, why don't we just do our own thing? Why do we have to have this big fiasco anyways when we could just stream this online and get the same turnout we would instead of having to set up this giant convention? It's probably a lot cheaper on their end too, so this isn't really a big shocker if you pay any attention to what's been going on in the gaming industry lately, but I mean, it was a little bit of a shock to just read it, just, yeah, E3 2023 canceled. It's like, oh wow, they finally pulled the trigger on that. I was wondering when they were going to do that. I mean, it was already confirmed that like Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft weren't going to be there this year, right? So it's not that big of a loss. E3 hasn't been the big fiasco it used to be for a good while now. I'd say peak E3 recently was probably when PlayStation did their PlayStation 4 unveiling and they just wiped the floor with Microsoft that year. I think that was like peak E3 drama, and really it kind of hasn't been that way in a long time. I mean, yeah, Keanu got on stage that one year and he kind of did that whole meme we all laughed at for about a week, then moved on with our lives. The event was supposed to be held from June 13th through June 16th at the Los Angeles Convention Center and would have been the first in-person E3 event since 2019. The event was canceled in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and while a digital version was held in 2021, which I didn't watch that, yeah. I mean, I don't watch E3 in general. I haven't watched E3 in a long time. I actually went to E3 2018 with my buddies. I mean, it was cool. You know, that was kind of like my version of going to Disneyland because I never did that as a kid. So, and I imagine like most adults that end up going to Disneyland, you're kind of let down from what I've heard. Just a bunch of standing in lines and waiting. And really, you kind of get the same experience you would have gotten if you would just watch the unveilings of stuff at home. I mean, that was my E3 experience. Like, we didn't get to play any game demos or nothing. We just kind of walked around, saw some weird tech, and anything we tried waiting in line for, lines got capped and we had to move on with our day. So, really, we kind of just had more fun hanging out than just interacting with the actual entertainment experience we were presented with. But that was just my personal biases towards E3. I imagine some people have had plenty of fun with it, but it wasn't really my cup of tea. So, that's why this whole cancellation really isn't, it's not really going to put a damper on my mood. So back to the article, my bad. The event was canceled again in 2022 in an effort to focus on a revitalized showcase that would set a new standard for hybrid industry events. E3's return this year was announced last June alongside the confirmation that E3 2022 had been canceled. The news comes as multiple big names in the industry from Xbox, Nintendo, PlayStation, and more recently Ubisoft announced that it would not be attending E3 in any capacity, with most opting to host its own digital showcases. Yep, that is it right there. So like I said earlier, COVID happened, couldn't do E3, so they have their little digital presentations. They go, oh, why don't we just keep doing this instead? Let's just cut out the middlman entirely. And bada bing, bada boom, E3 is gone. It might come back next year. I don't know, but let's be real. If this keeps up with these big companies just doing it their own way, E3 is not going to be the powerhouse it used to be if it does continue to go. It feels weird that like a tradition, like a gaming tradition, is just kind of going out the door now. I imagine this is like a similar thing to where Netflix took over and like Blockbuster closed down. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but it's the same feeling of, oh wow, that's gone now. Wow, I remember that was just like the thing, and now it's not. I'll try and see if E3's coming back next year. Yeah, no, just looked at it. As of the moment, they have no plans for E3 2024. This might be it for E3. How long has E3 been going? Since 1995? So yeah, that's just a big tradition just gone. I guess this is like the gaming equivalent of getting rid of the Macy's Day Thanksgiving Parade. That does kind of raise the question, though. Was E3 outdated, though? Like, has it served its time? I don't know if it was just me going to E3 for myself, but E3 just hasn't packed the same boom it has in a while. It's like I said earlier, I feel like PlayStation 4, Xbox One unveiling was like peak E3. At least for me it was. I could be wrong and you're saying, Evan, E3 2019 was the fucking best. I mean, if E3 doesn't come back, I'm sorry for those that really looked forward to E3 each year and probably wanted to go if they hadn't, or if they had and they wanted to keep going. But, I mean, at least I can say, yeah, I went once. It was okay. It wasn't really what I was expecting it to be, even though I had no expectations for it at all. But you know what I'm saying. You just show up and you're like, is this it? I don't know. I'm just kind of winging it on this. Like I said, I just read E3's canceled. I'm like, damn, it finally happened. Wow. Wow. All right, I'm going to go outside now.